The material I'm going to use for this video will be three basic materials from Seventh-day Adventist organization, or either the writings of Ellen White. One will be the Review and Herald, January 22nd, 1931. One will be Testimonies for the Church, Volume 1, page 131 and 132. And the third one will be Live Sketches, page 321, put out by Steam Press, the 1880 edition. From those three writings, or those three citations, we can find out that there was an SDA conference held in Battle Creek, Michigan in 1856. In fact, in Live Sketches on page 321, you'll find at the top of the paragraph where I'm getting ready to read a quote from, you'll find at the top of that paragraph where Ellen White says that it was May of 1856 that this conference was held. So I'm going to read to you a statement that was made at that conference. And this statement is again, I'm going to be reading it from Live Sketches, page 321, that's put out by Steam Press, it's the 1880 edition. And I quote, "At the conference, a very solemn vision was given me. I saw that some of those present would be food for worms, some subject for the 7 last plagues, and some would be translated to heaven at the coming of Christ without seeing death." Again, that's from Live Sketches, page 321. Now then, I want to look at some things in this statement made by Ellen White, where she is basically predicting the return of Christ and that he would come back before all those at that conference would see death. Now then, I want to look at three statements there and three predictions that she's talking about. One is, Ms. White said that some of them would be food for worms. Now then, unless the Seventh-day Adventist can produce one person who was at that conference that is alive today, the only conclusion you can draw is that Ellen White was a false prophet. And by the way, that person would have to be 155 years old today. The second statement she makes in there, Miss White said, some will be subject to the 7 last plagues. Even according to the Seventh-day Adventist eschatology, those 7 last plagues have not taken place. The conclusion, Ellen White was a false prophet. The third statement she made was this. Miss White said, some would be alive and remain upon the earth to be translated to the coming of Christ and will not see death, end quote. Once again, produce one person who was at that conference who is alive today, or the only conclusion you can come to is Ellen White was a false prophet. And again, that person would have to be 155 years old today. Now, in an effort to cover for this failed prediction by Ellen White, the Seventh-day Adventist organizations and members use the same thing too. They tried to say, well, this was conditional prophecy. Now, the entire content of this statement she made can be found in Live Sketches starting on page 321. And I have asked several times for Seventh-day Adventists, if this is a conditional prophecy, show me the conditions Ellen White placed upon this prophecy to either be fulfilled or not be fulfilled. I've not gotten one comment from any of them showing any condition Ellen White placed on this prophecy. So once again, to the Seventh-day Adventist organization or to any member of the Seventh-day Adventists, produce one condition that Ellen White placed upon this prophecy. The fact is, she did not place any conditions on the fulfillment of this prophecy. Conclusion, Ellen White was a false prophetess. Now then, another thing that bothered me about this. Did Ellen White actually get this vision from God or an angel, or did she get it from an evil spirit? I suggest that the possibility is she got it from an evil spirit and not from an angel from heaven to start with. Now then, I want to read you something, and then let me explain what I'm talking about there. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, it says this, "But of that day and hour know no one, neither the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone." So Jesus is clearly saying angels do not know when he is going to return. But yet Ellen White said an angel gave her a vision that he would return before all of those at that conference in 1856 will die. Acts 1 verse 7 says, "It is not for you to know the times and the dates the Father has set by his own authority." Now then, if the Bible says that angels do not know when Jesus is coming back, but yet Ellen White said she received a vision from an angel that saying Jesus was going to come back before all those at that conference had died, who's lying? Was Jesus lying when he said angels don't know? Or was it indeed a fallen angel who gave Ellen White this failed prediction on the return of Christ, and thus she was quoting from an evil spirit? You know, it's one thing to follow a false prophet. It's no big deal. So Ellen White was a false prophet. It's no big deal to me. There's been hundreds of false prophets. There will be others to come in the future who will predict the return of Jesus Christ. But the thing is, for an organization to build its beliefs and its teaching system on the writing of a false prophet doesn't say very much about that organization, does it? Again, Seventh-day Adventist, if this is conditional prophecy, show the conditions Ellen White placed upon this fulfillment of this prophecy are not being fulfilled. And if you can't do that, the only conclusion you can come to is Ellen White was a false prophet. Seventh-day Adventist members, why don't you read from your own material? The material I got and gave to you today from the Review and Herald of January of 1931, from Testimony of the Church, Volume 1, from Live Sketches, page 321. This is all either the writings of Ellen White or your material. This is your material this stuff is coming from. Do you just not care to see the truth? Maybe you put just halters over your eyes and, well, I can't go see where my prophet was a false prophet. I can't really go see. I'd rather believe a lie than to believe the truth. That's exactly what you're doing if you do not think that your organization is being built and was built on the writings of a false prophet. Until next time, this has been Golly saying, God bless.